Hi, thanks for using my court coach. I'm Sarah, and I will be your instructor as we talk about the proof of service of summons today, also known as Form FL115. If you have filed a new action, and that's either going to be a petition for dissolution or legal separation of marriage or domestic partnership or nullity, or a parentage act, a petition to establish parental relationship, or a custody and support act, which is a petition for custody and support of minor children, then you would need to serve that on the other side with a summons. There is the requirement that they then file this form, so it makes it easy for the court to determine if those documents have been properly served. So as always with our court forms, you want to fill in your identifying case caption, identifying information at the top. And then you're going to mark the boxes of the documents that were served. So again, it's either going to be a petition for marriage or domestic partnership, a petition to establish parental relationship, or a petition for custody and support of minor children, along with the summons and the blank responsive forms that go with those documents. So your process server will need to mark either box 1A, box B, or box C. And then if there's any additional documents that were served, they would mark the appropriate boxes. So that can be the declaration under UCCJEA Form FL15, which is required when minor children are at issue. It can be your financial disclosures, which include the FL140, the FL142, the FL150, or in place of the FL150 if you serve an FL155 instead, and in place of the Schedule of Assets and Debts, the FL142, if you have the FL160 served instead. If you file a request for order seeking any sort of temporary relief, and that is served along with the petition and summons, you would mark box 7, indicating that you serve both the request for order and a blank responsive declaration to request for order. 8 is where you list any other documents that may have been served with this. A lot of times, as part of your requirement to serve the other side with your preliminary declarations of disclosure, you're also required to serve them with 2 years of tax returns. So I often indicate that those were also served in 8. If there is a notice of case assignment or a notice of a status conference or family resolution conference, and those were also served, then I also include those, as well as any local court forms that your particular county also require as part of opening up a new case. So that's filling out Section 1. Section 2, you want to include the address where the other side was served. And Section 3, you want to indicate how they were served. Again, with a new case, you generally want to serve by personal service. There are some exceptions to that, but 9 times out of 10, that's how the initial service will be done, and you'll be marking box 3A and listing the date and time that person was served. If you cannot serve by personal service, there is an option to serve by substituted service, where you're leaving the copies with someone else that lives with the respondent. So if you are serving by substituted service, you can mark box 3B and list the title or relationship of the person that the documents were left with to the respondent, and the address where they were served at, business or home, and then date and time. If you do choose, and I'm going to keep saying you, but if your process server does choose to serve by substituted service, they also need to include a declaration of diligence. It's just going to be a declaration stating the actions they took to first attempt personal service. For instance, how many times did they come out to the house, what days, what times, etc. You can also serve by mail if the other side is willing to accept service, and they would do that by signing what's called a notice and acknowledgement of receipt. So if you do choose to serve by mail, you mark box 3C, list the date you're mailing and the city that you're mailing from. You want to include 2 copies of the notice and acknowledgement of receipt form, which we will cover in a separate video. Or if you are mailing this to an address outside of California, then you will need to do it by registered or certified mail with return receipt requested, and you would have to attach that return receipt to the actual delivery to the respondent. I can't think of any other way you would properly serve an initial petition and summons, so I probably would not advise you to seek other. And then your process server who serves the papers, of course, they need to be over the age of 18 and they cannot be a party to this case. That person would write in their name, address, telephone number, and then if they are an attorney, they would mark box 1 4A. Most likely they are not a registered California process server. If you are helping them fill out this form, if they're a family member or friend, they would mark box 4B. If they are a registered process server, generally process servers are going to fill out this form for you, but in any case, they would mark 4C and then indicate if they're an employer or an independent contractor, include the registration number and the county of the registration, what fee they collected for the service. Your process server is also going to mark box 5. If the person serving for you is a California sheriff or marshal or constable, they will mark box 6. They have to type in their name here and then sign and date this form. This form then gets filed with the court, and this is your proof of service of summons. I hope you found this helpful. Good luck.